Sixers win. Sixers win. Yeah. Wow. I mean, listen, man. What a ridiculous game we just watched. Sixers versus Spurs. And I mean, just listen, man. This team, they just continue to give me drama. And at the end of the day, I'm in the drama business, man. And whether this team is good or bad or wins or loses or whatever it is, there's always something to talk about. You know, in the words of, who's the reporter that Joel Embiid allegedly punched in the face? He said, I hope this ownership group owns this team forever because the stories just write themselves. Now we go into a Monday night game against the San Antonio Spurs, and just some absolute debauchery goes down in this game. And, you know, Joel Embiid got ejected. Andre Drummond got ejected and unejected. And then Tyrese Maxey puts the team on his back in the fourth quarter and delivers us a victory. A lot to talk about. And I have a lot of opinions on a couple of things. Thank you for being here. So be active in the chat. I will, the Discord link is pinned at the top of the chat for you to call the show. Second part of this show is the live callers on the Discord. So if you're not part of the Discord, click the link, join the Discord, and call the show. I want to hear your thoughts also. So, join me. Do me a favor, hit the like button one time. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thank you for listening there as well. You guys have us almost on the first page on Apple Podcasts when you search Sixers on Apple Podcasts. So shout out to that. And all of these post-game live shows are brought to you by Game Time Ticket app and DraftKings Sportsbook app. Now, let's get down to business, shall we? The Sixers win against the San Antonio Spurs, 111 to 106. And there was some ups and downs. There was some interesting things lineup wise. There's some things I want to talk about. You know, Nick Nurse. I'm going to talk about Paul George. I'm going to talk about what Tyrese Maxey did at the end of the game. Shout out to KCell 1982 for the super chat. Eastwood running back Phillies, Sixers, Commanders. Not sure what the Commanders hashtag is for because they beat the Eagles without Jalen Hurts yesterday. I mean, who cares? But thank you for the super chat, KCell, and thank you for being a long time subscriber to the channel. And if you're a Redskins fan, congratulations on that victory. Yeah, the Sixers win 111 to 106, man. And I guess the first thing we got to talk about is the Joel Embiid ejection, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the play, actually. And so, you know, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, obviously you won't be able to see what I'm talking about. But for YouTube, I'm going to put it on the screen here because I just want to draw an assessment of what went down. Now, right before this play, well, a couple of possessions before this play, maybe this was in the second quarter, maybe in the first quarter, the Andre Drummond thing happened. The Andre Drummond thing in the first quarter was one of the worst things I've ever seen by an NBA official. And NBA officials are bad. They continue to be bad. They actually continue to get worse and worse. The NBA can't figure out how to fix ratings dropping or the overall mainstream opinion on the NBA. One of the biggest problems with the NBA is officiating and flopping, you know, like to be blunt about it. And yes, people say, how you can talk about flopping when Joel Embiid's on your team? I don't want him to flop either, bro. I don't want anybody to flop. You know what I mean? Yeah, there we go. We're back. I don't want anybody to flop. I don't want Joel Embiid to flop. I don't want Victor Wembanyama to flop. I don't want Chris Paul, Jalen Brunson, James Harden. I don't want anybody to flop. Because I love this game, and I've loved this game for a long time, and I just feel like it's being taken away from me with the way these players are playing. But I could rant about that forever. But anyway, in the first quarter, Victor Wembanyama Andre Drummond went to like push through him a little bit on the baseline, and he just threw himself on the floor. And the official called a technical foul. Not just a foul that shouldn't have been called, a technical foul, okay? A couple of possessions later, actually the next possession, Wembanyama did the same thing. Only this time, Drummond didn't even push him. Drummond wasn't even touching him. He tripped over Drummond's foot and threw himself on the floor. She just saw Wembanyama on the ground again. She called a second how bad officiating is when all they're seeing is a player laying on the floor, and so they take a blatant guess. They just take a guess. They just say, if that player's laying on the floor, that must mean you just shoved him to the floor, so you're out of the game. You can't officiate a game that way. Okay? You just can't do it. So the referees convene, and for anybody that missed this, this is insane. The referees convened after that play, after Drummond got ejected. He was in the locker room. He had his jersey off. He was gone. The referees got together, looked at the replay, and said, holy hell, he didn't even touch him. We got to reverse this call. And so they reverse the call, and Andre Drummond comes back out. He has to come out of the locker room, put his jersey back on, bro. He was driving down the street. He was halfway home. He was on his way to Wendy's or something. And they call and say, hey, man, you're unejected. You're unejected. You need to come back in the game. Turns his car around, parks it, comes back in the arena. And I've never seen that happen before. That was those officials saying this is such a bad call. If we let this go, we're going to get absolutely smoked for this. So that was already insane, okay? And I'm not saying lady ref versus male ref or anything like that, because male referees in the NBA are literally just as bad. I know the chat and everybody when we were live wanted to go there, and I like to make my lady ref jokes and things like that. I do have an opinion of Joel Embiid's ejection, but NBA officials are just bad in general, but this was that was some shit I've never seen before. All right, so then in the second quarter, Joel Embiid drives on Victor Wembanyama right here. It's on the screen. And watch the flop by Wembanyama right here. I mean, just steps to his right and just acts like he got shot in the stomach with a 12-gauge shotgun. You know what I mean? And throws himself onto the floor. Just a ridiculous flop. I don't care what anybody says. Lady ref, right there, bottom right. Calls the foul. Charge! Right there, okay? Now, Joel Embiid can't believe the call, all right? She just calls it a regular foul. She didn't throw a T. Except Joel Embiid gets up and runs after her to tell her how bad of a call this is. Now, here's the problem that I have. I'm fine with Joel Embiid running over there and telling her how bad of a call this is. Right here, he walks up to her. He's not doing anything aggressive. He's just telling her how bad this call was. And she says, whatever. And he says, that's fucking terrible, or whatever he said. I don't believe that warrants a technical foul. I mean, are players not allowed to express their concern or their express themselves as they disagree, you know? But because this is where she threw the technical foul right here. That's where she teed him up. Then, after she tees him up, he reacts to it by giving her a little chin tap on the hand right there. You know what I'm saying? And the chin tap on the hand is where the problem lies. If you make contact with an official, it's an automatic technical foul, and a second technical foul is an ejection. So by rule, it's an ejection. It's fine. She is kind of scouring in fear because Joel Embiid is 7'2", 280-pound human being. It's probably not the greatest feeling having a man that size scream in your face, but you signed up for the job. That's where I'm at with this. I'm not saying women shouldn't be officials in the NBA. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying you should not expect, and I'm not saying she does expect players to change the way they react to what she's doing. You know, but I don't know. Like, you're going to get, this is a giant man who's frustrated and he might yell at you, you know? But I mean, I think she handled herself pretty well there. Joel got ejected for making contact. Like, so it is what it is. But the calls by this official were absolutely horrendous. And I just want to ask the chat, you know, if this was a male ref, does Joel Embiid get ejected? That's just like, yeah, that maybe. I think it looks a lot worse. I'm gonna keep it a buck. It looks a lot worse because it's a 5'1" female and she's scouring in fear. So it looks a lot worse. That's all I'm saying. If that was a man who was a little bit taller and bigger in stature, would that be an ejection? You could look at it from the other side. You know, I've never really seen Joel Embiid react to an official this way. So we could ask the question on the other side too. If that was a male referee, would Joel Embiid have reacted that way? Because it's pretty aggressive. And I don't, once I watched it a couple of times, I don't disagree with the ejection. Joel, it was a terrible call, but you gotta control yourself a little bit better than that. Now you're getting ejected in the second quarter of a game against Wemby, and we wanted to watch you play Wemby down, towards the end of the game. But there's my take on it, I guess. I don't know if I really gave an opinion on it. Yeah, by rule, it's an ejection because he made contact, but I think the technical foul in the first place was very soft, by her. I think that's the problem I have with it. If you're going to get yelled at by players if you make a bad call. If you make 3 bad calls in a row and you get a player ejected and then unejected, not a good night for number 20 official right there. I guess that's my take on it. Feel free to give me your opinions on it in the chat, but keep it. You don't have to be across the line and anti lady refs and things like that. My opinion on female referees is actually that all NBA officials should be female because females don't miss anything. Females see everything. You ever date a girl, bro? You ever do something wrong and have her not remind you 7 months later? They see everything and they remember everything. So if anything, they should all be females. They would never miss a call. But in all seriousness, this lady was horrible in this game, and Joel Embiid completely overreacted. And so it is what it is. Now, the rest of the game was pretty bad. There was just some... The Sixers bench is going to kill them no matter what happens. If you feel like with Joel Embiid healthy and with Paul George on the floor and Maxey doing his thing that they have a chance, then the Sixers will have to make a move at the trade deadline because the first substitution in this game was Kyle Lowry and Reggie Jackson. The first 2 players to come into the game for the 76ers in 2024 in an NBA game, really in an NBA game, were Kyle Lowry and Reggie Jackson. And that blows my mind. It will continue to blow my mind that you're bringing in a 39-year-old and a 35-year-old off the bench first in a game against a young team. And all these games are against young teams. But not only that, 2 point guards? Like, what is going on here? But when you really look at the roster with Jared McCain out for the season, there's not really a shooting guard on this roster unless you bring Justin Edwards up from the G League, who, by the way, just had a 30-point game in the G League last night. Shout out to Justin Edwards. I've been saying he should have been getting minutes on the Sixers for a long time now. But the way Nick Nurse sees it, there's no shooting guards on this team coming off the bench. So he's going to play, I guess, Reggie Jackson at shooting guard first off the bench. I don't know. I when I really look at the lineups again, I'm going to call this a pretty terrible Nick Nurse game. In a game where Andre Drummond went out with a toe injury, Joel Embiid got ejected, he's still DNP'd Adem Bona. The only center left on the roster, the young 6'10", 250-pound shot-blocking center Adem Bona. DNP for him. Ricky Council, who's been playing the last couple of games, has been affecting the game positively the last couple of games, has been giving us energy, has been end-to-end rebounds, fast breaks, dunks, all that physicality and energy Ricky Council has been bringing to the game. it's a head scratcher for me that Ricky Council suddenly gets a DNP in this one. I don't know. You guys tell me what the hell goes through Nick Nurse's mind when he's making these decisions. I have no idea. I'm out on Nick Nurse. I'm out on trying to figure him out. It is what it is. He's gonna do what he's gonna do. But the Kyle Lowry era, the Kyle Lowry, Reggie Jackson being the first two off the bench did make me laugh. It gave me a good laugh. So thank you, Nick Nurse, for giving me a solid laugh during a Sixers game before the holidays. I appreciate that. And then, I got to shout out Tyrese Maxey, man. Tyrese Maxey put the team on his back in the fourth quarter. Absolutely put the team on his back. Possession after possession after possession. And really, if you watch the game, if you watch the whole fourth quarter, there was two max players on the floor, Tyrese Maxey and Paul George. One of them was folding. One of them was doing his best Tobias Harris impression. And specifically, just a good example, Paul George, fourth quarter, 6 inches shorter than you, and he's 40 years old. And what does Paul George do? Dribble, dribble, dribble through the legs, behind the back, step back, fadeaway jump shot. Instead of, getting physical maybe a little bit and getting in the lane on Chris Paul. He's just a fadeaway jump shooter. It's what he is. And Paul George was doing basically nothing to help the team survive the San Antonio Spurs in the fourth quarter. Once again, he was actually sinking the canoe. Paul George was on the back of the canoe trying to pull it down into the water. And Tyrese Maxey said, you know what? I'm not having this. Give me the ball. I got this. And Tyrese, possession after possession in the fourth quarter, kept the Sixers alive. They kept giving up buckets to damn Julian Champagnie down on the other end. They kept the Spurs in it. And they battled. But without Tyrese Maxey, the Sixers lose this game. Without Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, we get slandered a lot more than he's getting slandered right now because they would have lost to the Spurs and PG would have done basically nothing to elevate the team or bring them to victory. He is what he is. He's a max contract third option at this point. And so I just have to accept that. I have to accept that Paul George at this point is a $212 million, slightly better Tobias Harris. But Tobias Harris is points per game, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage are all higher than Paul George right now at this point in the season, which is just so Sixers. It's unbelievable. I'm waiting to see Paul George be a little bit more physical when his jump shot's not falling. I don't like the fact that you're a $212 million player and you're absolutely just out there chucking step back jump shots. And if it goes in, it's cool. If it's off, you're totally worthless. I'm not okay with that. I need a little bit more aggression and physicality and fire from a guy on a max contract, but I'm going to have to eventually accept the fact that I'm not going to get that from Podcast P. He's going to have games where he makes shots and he'll give you 30. He's going to have games like this. And the past two games, really, I don't want to combine the stats of his last three games because he's 2 for 12 from 3 to 2 games before this. He was 2 for 7 tonight. That's 4 for 19. It's bad. He did have 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Sometimes got in the lane and pulled a Ben Simmons move again where, for some reason he beats defenders, gets in the lane right in front of the rim and still passes the ball out to the three-point line. So he even gets to the point where he doesn't want to put the ball up at all because he can't jump anymore and he loses all confidence. That is what it is. I don't know. He's here for 4 more years. I can't cry about it every single game. But, Paul George had 19 points. He had a couple of possessions where he got in the lane and was physical and got to the free throw line, so shout out to him for that. But in the fourth quarter, he was not a max contract player in the fourth quarter. He was totally Tobias Harris in the fourth quarter, and if it wasn't for Tyrese Maxey, the Sixers lose this game. But shout out to Paul George for recognizing that, he's not the guy and giving the ball to Tyrese Maxey in the fourth quarter. At least I guess I got to respect the fact that Paul George knows he's not that guy anymore. Because when Maxey was cooking, PG kept giving him the ball back. And so, hey, I can't do it. You do it. You know what I mean? So shout out to him for that. Tyrese Maxey, the steal, I will say the steal and the left-handed dunk on the other end and one pretty much sealed the game for the 76ers. The Spurs had a couple of possessions where they were doing some things, and then they inbound the ball and Tyrese steals it and just goes down with the left and dunks on, I don't remember if it was Stephen Castle or Devin Vassell, but just a nice injection of energy, or just a passionate finish by Tyrese Maxey. Passionate finish. Wow, pause. But then he flexes and screams, and the bench goes crazy and all that stuff. So that was awesome to see, and his three was falling in the fourth. Tyrese Maxey led us to victory. Tyrese Maxey carried the boats, to quote David Goggins. Paul George did not carry the boats. Paul George was weighing the canoe down in the back with all of his money. He had bags and bags full of $200 million, and it was weighing down the back of the boat. There's my take on that, man. A couple more things. Caleb Martin had 12 points in this game. You know, Caleb Martin has struggled with some kind of hitch in his shot, right? And some kind of impingement, a shoulder impingement or whatever. So I will say that this is a good Caleb Martin game. This was, he wasn't absolutely dreadful like he's been a lot of the games this season. So hopefully this is a step in the right direction for Caleb Martin. Playing the game that he plays, physical, playing defense, all that, and hit a couple of threes, and that's a good sign. He was 3 for 5 from three-point range, and it's not really makes or misses necessarily I'm looking from Caleb Martin. It's the what the shot looks like, you know, that shoulder with the hitch in the shot, and it's still inconsistent. He hits threes sometimes and it looks okay. It's still like a low kind of line drive three. I don't know if he's always shot the ball that way, but then sometimes there's like a hitch in his shot and it's just way off target and like shanks off the side of the rim. So I don't know what to expect. Hopefully Caleb Martin can be a little bit more consistent for us, but a good game for him. And Gershon Yabusele, shout out to Yabu, the dancing bear, with 17 points off the bench. So, you know, the last two games I was talking about how bad the 76ers bench has been, and to get 12 and 17 from Yabu and Caleb Martin off the bench was pretty much the difference in this game. Without that bench scoring, we might lose this game to the Spurs. And so shout out to Yabu, and he had a couple of dunks in his game. He had one on the baseline where he dunked the ball, I guess, too aggressively and hung on the rim a little bit. And the same referee that tried to kick out Andre Drummond and had him unejected because the call was so wrong, and then kicked out Joel Embiid, she called a technical foul for hanging on the rim on Gershon Yabusele. So shout out to Lady Ref for absolutely cooking up a game with 5 technical fouls handed out. I don't know if she just woke up in a bad mood today or something else is going on. I don't know, but shout out to Yabu. But really, man, the NBA needs to fix flopping. It's at some point something has to happen. Now you have young players like Victor Wembanyama obviously just diving on the floor to trick the officials into ejecting a player. I don't want to see flopping from anybody. I don't want Joel Embiid to flop. I don't want Damian Lillard to flop. I don't want Wembanyama to flop. I want the NBA to fix the damn game that I grew up loving, okay? And hanging on the rim, dude. NBA, really? Give me a fucking break, NBA. Give me a goddamn break, NBA. Like, what point of time? When did we go through these couple of years? I don't know when it was, man, like mid-2000s or something, where the NFL also, when they started throwing flags for players celebrating in the end zone, right? And the NBA, technical fouls for hanging on the rim. At what point in these leagues was there a group full of dorks in a fucking office building somewhere saying, hey, man, you know what we should do? We should throw penalties for players dancing in the end zone because young kids are watching this and it's unsportsmanlike. And what dork was like, hey, man, we should throw technical fouls for players hanging on the rim because it's taunting and young children are watching this and oh my God, what are the young kids gonna think if they see Gershon Yabusele hanging? We gotta stop it, man. You're taking the fun out of your own game. It's absolutely ridiculous. And seriously, in the past couple of years, the NBA has run its own game into the ground, and they are seeing the results for that with all of these complaints about ratings dropping. So you need to fix flopping, you need to fix traveling, you need to fix bullshits like hanging on the rim and shit like that. And you need to fix officiating, dude, because it's horrible. And I just watched a guy get ejected and then unejected in a basketball game. Now, look, man, I want to show you guys this real quick before I get to the super chats and the callers on the Discord. I want to show you this. Nick Nurse says he did not get much of an explanation as to why Joel Embiid was ejected. He says he approached the other members of the crew and they said, ask her. Bro! The other officials who convened when she ejected Andre Drummond and said, hey, we got to reverse this call because this is one of the worst calls we've ever seen. You got to go uneject Andre Drummond. That's how bad this call is. Those refs told Nick Nurse at the end of the game, I don't know, ask her. They didn't even have her back, bro. This chick's getting smoked, man. I don't know, man. Maybe it's not for her. You know, there's some other female officials in the league, by the way, who I think are great. You know, the one that you guys call Luka Doncic's girlfriend, man, I like her a lot. This one, she got a long way to go. You know, but again, there's a lot of officials that are terrible in the NBA, not just this specific one. Shout out to everybody in here, man. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for hearing my rant. Mufasa, I see you in the Discord. I'm going to get to you in a minute. And I'm going to get to the Super Chats in a minute, too. These post-game live shows are brought to you by our friends at Game Time Ticket app. And going to a game during the holidays is wonderful. Going to a Christmas Day game is wonderful. I've been at a Christmas Day game before. I think it was awesome. You might think it sounds crazy to go to a game on Christmas, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. And tickets are a great last-minute gift. And guess what? It's a digital purchase, so you can get it last minute. It's not like buying something on Amazon and it's going to show up on the 27th. You know what I mean? You can buy it right. If you forgot to get someone something, you can get them Sixers tickets right now on Game Time Ticket app. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Shout out to the members in the chat. Shout out to the super chatters. Who we got, man? Jordan Walker, man. Thank you for the $5 super chat. You got to wear the Santa Claus beard on Christmas Day. I don't know, man. Should I wear a fake beard or should I just like paint my beard white or whatever? Should I do a Santa hat and a white beard, man? I think I could pull that off. I just don't really know how to make it white. I'll have to try to figure that out, but I think that would be pretty funny if I dressed up like Santa Claus for the Celtics game on Wednesday. Jason A. Team, thank you for the super chat, man. Merry Christmas, Eastwood. You the GOAT. This is Maxey's team. Sports in general, as entertaining as it is, it's clearly WWE anymore. Please, God, get rid of Kyle Lowry. Love the dude, but holy F and refs ass. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like we gotta the 76ers if they decide. Well, I mean, Wednesday is going to show us the most. Wednesday is going to give us a clear picture of is this team a contender or not? How this team competes against the Boston Celtics is going to tell you all you need to know. And at that point, they need to decide, are we trying to win or are we, packing it in for next season? And if they decide they are trying to win, they need to bolster this bench at the trade deadline worse than anything. This Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson ass bench is not going to get it done. And so we're going to find out, Wednesday, whether the Sixers, I think, can contend or whether they can't. I really think this one game against the Celtics on Christmas Day is going to tell us a lot. And if they do think they can contend, they need to do something at the trade deadline, because this bench, shout out to Yabusele and shout out to Caleb Martin. And if you can get more consistency from those guys, that's great. But there's just too many short, slow, old guys on this bench. And that's my take on it. Super chat from Paul Michio. It's just good to see Joel be aggressive about anything. Wow. It's just good to see Embiid be aggressive about anything. So Paul Michio is just happy that Joel Embiid is being aggressive, even if it is Joel Embiid screaming at an official and getting ejected from the game. And now the pool report. Shout out to my dude Za in the Discord, who is always hitting me with the good stuff from Twitter. The actual transcript from the pool report from officials after tonight's game. Okay, let's check it out, man. Here you go. The main question is about Joel Embiid and the ejection. I know he was arguing, but what was the cause of the ejection, and did he hit the referee? Blair, is this the chick? Is the girl's name Blair? Is the female ref's name Blair? After post-game review, there is incidental contact with both of them, but it was incidental in nature. There was nothing that warranted any further punishment. It was just incidental in nature. What was the call fouls, which by rule is an automatic ejection? The sequence with Andre Drummond where he was ejected and then he was brought back into the game. When do you look at the reviews you saw that he didn't cause the foul? After review, it was determined that Drummond stepped on Wembanyama's foot and it was deemed incidental contact. Is that why the flop was taken off? Correct, because Wemby tripped over Drummond's foot. So that is why the point was taken off the board. Okay, so they're saying that there was incidental contact on Embiid and on Wemby, but they're saying he was ejected because he was given two unsportsmanlike conduct technical fouls, which, yeah, I mean, we already knew that. We think the first technical was a ridiculous one. The second one was because he bumped her hand, with his chin in his frustration. It is what it is. Shout out to 520 people in here. Hit the like button one time for me, man. We got my man Mufasa on the Discord. If you want to call me, click the link at the top of the chat. Join the Discord. It's very simple. You click the link and then you just click on call-in's waiting room. And then I put you on the show, man. So let's hear from our guy Mufasa, man. Mufasa, what's going on? Yo, Mufasa in the Discord. Mufasa in the Discord, man. Yo, Mufasa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. What's going on?
Not much. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, brother. How you doing?
Hey, I'm hanging in here, being a sicko as usual, trying to figure out if I should get back on board or just give up on this season.
Mufasa, you are West Philly by way of Africa, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Shout out to you, man. Thanks for calling the show. What you got, man?
Hey, man. I just watched the game. I don't agree with the ejection, but I agree with you that it was warranted because Joel needed to just control himself better there.
Yeah.
My fear right now is them suspending him for the Celtics game because of the behavior after the ejection. He didn't leave the court right away, so I'm hoping that because it's a Christmas game, they'll probably let it slide or get the suspension afterwards. But the way this league is right now, that's one of my concerns.
You think so? Well, here's what I think, man. I think, when I watch the replay and stuff, I don't think they're going to suspend him. I think he was overly aggressive. He got the penalty. He got the unsportsmanlike for doing that. Yeah, he bumped into her hand while she was giving the tee and stuff, but I mean, the NBA, they know what their ratings are like right now, and they want Joel Embiid versus the Celtics more than anything else right now. They want the Sixers fully healthy and the Celtics fully healthy on Christmas Day. So I don't see them suspending him for that game because that would just take the air completely out of that game and destroy their ratings. From a business standpoint, I don't think they should suspend him. And really, I don't think they should suspend him at all. I think it was a soft foul call. I think it was, he bumped her hand because he was yelling at her. But, I mean, damn, did he reach out and, like, push her or something? You know what I mean? I don't think they should suspend him at all. If they suspend him, I think I would be shocked about that.
I hope so. I really do. Because with the way this league is going now and they questioning why the ratings are down, listen, when did we get to giving text for like hanging on the rim after a dunk, bro? Like this is getting out of hand, man. Like
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Basketball is about talking shit and being demonstrative after you have a nice play. This is ridiculous, bro.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all, man. I don't know why. Like I was saying this earlier in the stream, I don't know when these leagues got to a point where they decided let's take the emotion out of the game. You know, when did that?
Yeah.
When were they like, let's take the emotion out of the game so players have to score and just like walk over and hand the ball to the official and walk away? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Seriously. But it is what it is. We're still here rooting for the Sixers, and I heard you a couple of times, because I'm always trying to figure out how we could really get this roster better, but I kind of realized that the KJ Martin contract. I heard you a couple of times saying it was a $60 million contract.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked it up and realized that it's actually his second year. He got 2 years,
$8 million.
16,
yeah.
So it's basically 8 a year, and the second year is a team option.
Yeah.
So at this point right now, I'm trying to figure out, man. Do you still think he needs to be traded at the deadline, or should we keep him and maybe restart the contract next year?
Yeah, look, I think they're definitely going to trade him at the trade deadline because with 3 max contracts, that $8 million is a lot. You know what I mean? And if they're going to try to add pieces to this team with the minimal amount of cap space that they have and avoid the second apron or whatever those intangibles are, they need that $8 million. And I don't think KJ Martin, I like him and I like him defensively, but looking at the money and what I think they need to add to this team, I don't think that $8 million is something that you should be spending on a guy who can play some defense and like is basically bad on the offensive side of the floor. Good some nights, but I don't think he's worth that money. And I think it's definitely going to be a salary cap move. If they want to add pieces, I think that $8 million is a lot.
Right. If we get in a good player, I'm cool with it, but I'm just trying to figure out who are they really going to get. You know what I mean? Because at this point, I would rather go with and I know Nurse is probably not going to do it, but I would rather go cut all these minimum with Gordon and Reggie Jackson and Kyle Lowry and give a chance on the minimum to other players that wants to prove that they can get a contract next year. Because, like, realistically speaking, who are we really getting at the trade deadline that is really going to move the needle? That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. Especially with Joel in and out of the lineup and Paul George, being good one night and bad one night too. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, who are we really getting? Or should we just see what this whole thing, how it plays out for the rest of the season?
Nah, it's a good take, Mufasa, man, and thanks for calling the show. I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna answer your question and talk about it. So I appreciate you, man. Thanks for calling the show. Call back anytime, my man. Mufasa on the disc. Because again, the Sixers would have to decide what they're gonna do. They have to decide if they're gonna be a contender or if they're going to wait till next season. You can't wait too many seasons with Joel Embiid and Paul George, right? But if they decide with Joel, Maxey, and PG, we are a contender if we bolster the line, and they are going to trade KJ Martin, you're going to have to trade other things too for it depends what players they would be looking for, but for me, backup point guard who's not 40 years old, and if they would get another 3-and-D power forward like a Dorian Finney-Smith, or if you could get the young 3-and-D player out of New Orleans, bolstering the bench with some difference makers could really take this team to a level that they're not at right now. And if also Daryl Morey, he's gonna protect his decision to sign Paul George and his decision to extend Joel Embiid. He's probably gonna try to back up those decisions by making the team stronger depth-wise at the trade deadline. So, I mean, it's a big if. It's always going to be an if with Joel Embiid, and it's going to be an if with Paul George. But if they are healthy and you bolster the bench with a solid backup point guard, I said Dennis Schroeder, he already got traded, but a solid backup point guard maybe, and a 3-and-D power forward, and maybe Herb Jones is the one I was thinking about from the Pelicans, a young 3-and-D player who is 6'7", a 7-foot wingspan, just Matisse Thybulle with offensive skills, and a young player that matches up with Maxey and McCain's timeline. That Herb Jones would be a great trade, not just for right now, but for the future. So they're gonna have to make a decision. But if they do make that decision, yes, that $8 million that KJ Martin is getting paid is going to be a part of that, because you don't have any cap space outside of that. And they signed him to that contract not because he's an $8 million player. They signed him to that because they want to be able to match salaries in a trade. If they don't make a trade at the trade deadline, I don't think this team's good enough to do anything, because the bench is terrible. You can't have Kyle Lowry and Reggie Jackson, being your first two guys off the bench in the 2024 NBA. You just can't. What else you guys got, man? NZ for 3 says Dante DiVincenzo. Yeah, I like Dante DiVincenzo a lot, and that's obviously a Villanova product. So he's been in the Philly area. He's loved by Philadelphia. And, Dante DiVincenzo is that kind of guy, that Marcus Smart type of player. You know what I mean? That physical, hardworking, plays with heart, plays real blue collar, dives on the floor, is scrappy, and also has a really nice game. When he was with the Knicks, man, he gave the 76ers, so many dagger games. So many games where the star players were struggling or were out with injury, and Dante DiVincenzo would just give us 35, dude. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like we ever have that kind of guy, that Dante DiVincenzo off the bench. I don't know what's up with him in Minnesota right now. But if Minnesota is going to trade Dante DiVincenzo and you could get him without giving up the farm, I would love to add Dante DiVincenzo to the Sixers' depth. I mean, he might even be a starter, to be honest with you. The only thing I don't want Daryl Morey to do at the trade deadline is trade the 2028 unprotected Clippers first round pick. Clippers are going to be absolutely terrible by 2028. I would say the Sixers are going to be terrible by 2028 also, but we at least have Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain to move forward with. The Clippers, who's the guy they're moving forward with? Trey Mann, you know what I mean? Norman Powell, and those are good players, but those aren't future stars or anything like that. So I don't want to trade that 2028 unprotected Clippers pick, because I think that pick is going to be at the top of the draft. But Daryl Morey's an aggressive GM. He's always been an aggressive GM. He has an ego. And if Daryl Morey has to trade that pick to bolster this team so that his Paul George signing doesn't look as bad as it looks right now, I think he's going to trade the pick anyway. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But hey, man, that's my take on everything. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight, man. Happy holidays to you all. Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy whatever you celebrate. I will be live streaming the Sixers Celtics game on Christmas Day like an absolute psychopath. I might be, 5 or 6 of these deep when we do it. So, if you want to see maybe a little bit of a intoxicated Run It Back Philly stream, that might be it. But yeah, man, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for calling the show. Thanks for super chatting. You guys are the best, man. You turned this channel into what it is, Run It Back Nation. I will talk to you very soon.